Today in Memos to the President, the topic is building a secure energy future. Hi, I'm Gigi Hinton, along with Bill Antholis, Managing Director here at Brookings and co-author of the memo. Bill, building a secure energy future is critical for our nation, especially at this junction where we are now. But you're saying that President-elect Obama has to make a big push early on. Why is that?
Well, he listed energy security as one of his top priorities repeatedly throughout the campaign. And in, I think, all three debates with John McCain, it consistently was at the top of his list after dealing with the economic recession. And he should follow through on that. It's an issue that is still very much in the public mind. Gasoline was at $4 a gallon. It's come down, obviously, to about half that. But there's still a public urgency around the issue. They know that it connects to our national security. They know that it connects to climate change. And the economic volatility is something that we've all lived through. So he has an opportunity so close after the election to really move on a big issue that he thinks is medium to long term, which is the right way to think about the issue. The short-term thing that he's facing is the economic crisis. And that actually provides both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is that there are a lot of other priorities that require the president's attention, including budgetary attention. But the good news is some of the things that he might spend that money on could actually support energy security. So in our paper, we laid out some medium-term solutions that he should pay attention to.
So this won't cost him any political capital, really?
Well, it's one of those things where if he spends the political capital, he could earn more in the future. And in many states, there is certainly an urgency to get funding for some of the things that they were planning on doing. California is facing potentially a big budget shortfall. Other states are as well. Some of those money were going to be directed toward infrastructure. There might actually be political capital there. In those places where there might be opposition to the government spending more money, if that money leads to economic growth and the right kind of economic growth, it may end up benefiting him in the long term.
Bill, there is an obvious connection between energy security and a good energy conservation plan.
Potentially addressing climate change and energy security can work very well together. If you have a relatively stable sense of where the price of oil and gas is going to be over a relatively long-term time horizon, our relations potentially with places like Russia, Saudi Arabia could improve as a result of that. If we are less reliant on oil as our only source of transportation fuel, that may make those relationships a little bit less volatile because we have other parts of the relationship that we build out as opposed to exclusively being about oil, which is currently our transportation lifeblood. So potentially if Senator Obama, now President-elect Obama, moves in the right way on these issues and starts addressing the long-term challenges, long-term challenges of climate change, it will also have the effect of establishing a more stable set of relations on oil and gas issues.
Thank you, Bill. We'll see you again here next week on Memos to the President.
Is climate change something important that President-elect Obama should confront?
I think that he should address ways to help small businesses that are addressing very proactively the issues surrounding climate change and how it's impacted.
I think it's important that President-elect Obama make it a top priority because it's been an issue for like a long time now.
I think it's really important that he does it because it's affecting the planet and it's affecting us.
And that's a wrap.
Hello, I'm Ron Nesson with Brookings Senior Fellow Steve Hess, author of What Do We Do Now? A workbook for the President-elect. Steve, you devote considerable space in your book to advising the new president on selecting his press secretary. And that's a topic I have a particular interest in since I was President Ford's press secretary. What skills should Barack Obama be looking for in a press secretary?
Well, it's very nice to be a great briefer, to have a lovely sense of humor, to do all of the skills that come with performing in front of a group. But the most important thing is that you're close to the president. It's really a question of all of these reporters in front of you want to feel that the information you're giving them is bankable because you got it right from the president.
Well, you say that Pierre Salinger, who was President Kennedy's press secretary, had all the skills, but he wasn't held in high regard by the press because he wasn't a part of the inner circle of President Kennedy.
That became quite obvious when there was the first big crisis, the Bay of Pigs crisis. And very often that's the case where he means well, but he may give the press misinformation. So that, to me, is the key point. It's what reporters tell me when I survey them, that they want most in a press secretary, and that's somebody who is really part of the inner circle.
Well, Jody Powell was clearly part of President Carter's inner circle, and yet he wasn't liked very well by the press.
Well, from Powell's point of view, it's not a question of he liked or it wasn't running for Mr. Congeniality. He was somebody who was trying to make the case, whether he agreed with it or not, make the case for his president, in this case, Jimmy Carter.
So you think President-elect Obama ought to be looking at a former reporter for his press secretary?
Reporters tend to be more conflicted. That is, they see this still from their old chair. And the press secretary works for one person. He's the president of the United States. They expect to give good information, but they know who the boss is. And that may be more difficult for somebody who has spent all their lives as a reporter.
Jerry Terhorst resigned as President Ford's first press secretary because he disagreed with the pardon of Nixon. Do you think it's important for a press secretary or President Obama's press secretary to agree with everything the president does?
Well, I can't get inside his head. He may indeed disagree with a lot of things, but what his job is to state what the president's position is. Jerry Terhorst was a very honorable man, but his resigning sure didn't help Jerry Ford, president, one bit.
I love the mock oath of office for the press secretary that you include in the book. Do you remember what it is?
Remind me.
I,
yes,
Ron Nessen,
right.
am here to work for the president, and it's my job to explain my president's position, whatever it is, to the best of my ability.
Fair? Is that fair? You
Absolutely.
Were
That's the
sir.
job. That
Okay.
is the job. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I'm afraid we're out of time, though. And we will be back next week, though, with more advice on what the new president should do as he prepares to move into the Oval Office. See you then.
Be a part of the presidential transition. Join our pundits and experts for The Scouting Report, our live web chat every Wednesday afternoon at 12:30. Log on to www.brookings.edu/transition.